Hello, guys. So, just going to smudge a little. I'm going to be talking about the empath archetype. So, we're going to do a little bit of training around that. I just done a live training of it via Zoom, and I just thought I would do a little bit of a recap. So, I want really good connection. Beautiful connection. Okay. So, the empath. I thought I would just do a recap here because with that live training, I thought it's perfect. It's all fresh on my mind and it might help some people who are having lessons by being drained. So, they're drained by their empath. They are calling in bullies and narcissistic relationships. I've got two Wendy's. Hi, Wendy Nabel and Wendy Joy. How are you? So, um, with the empath, let's get in and see some of the common traits that the empath has. How are you, Michael? If anybody has the empath archetype and gets drained and would like to ask some questions, I can bring them on screen if you would like to. So, the empath will often call in lessons on where they really can do some amazing suffering. That sounds very full on, but what happens is they need to learn boundaries. They need to learn to say no, and they need to learn to have a really strong warrior. They also can have to go through lessons and the reasons that they go through so much suffering by having these narcissistic relationships, and where they have a really, strong bully in their life. Oh, hi, beautiful Shana. How are you? Shana was just in the Zoom teaching that was in my group. So thank you and lovely to see you here as well. So um, a lot of people misunderstand the empath. They can think that it is very much about they've got no control, they're powerless, that they have something that's wrong with them, they're cursed, right? And they constantly feel like other people are doing things to them. And some of the bitter medicine that you need to realize as an empath is that you need to actually take control of your power and step into your sovereign and your warrior, because that's what you're calling these lessons in for, because you have to learn the tools and the things that are going to deeply heal yourself and protect yourself. So the reason that they come in is so that you can be that super strong warrior, but also so that you have amazing integrity. Because you have to remember that the empath is like a psychic ability. If you use that analogy, it's an ability, but it's actually reading someone else's energy field and their emotions, and you'll get hit with insights. So you'll get hit with this knowing that that person's grieving, or maybe that person feels shame, or that person is feeling guilt, or they could be super angry and they don't show anything, but you know it because of your empathetic abilities. And if you're lacking in integrity, what happens is you could actually go into shadow, and you could either learn to manipulate, or you actually go forth and you try and heal somebody when they're not ready to be healed. There's that famous um, there's that famous saying about you can have knowledge but you don't have the wisdom. So you have to learn the knowledge, but then you have to have the wisdom to know when to implement it. So what happens is you also grow on your spiritual path. So a lot of empaths, when they first start out, they think that this is so normal. And I had this when I had my activation when I was 29. Um, and I was on this spiritual journey. Everyone was talking about being really drained by other people. And I just thought it was normal. And I actually thought maybe I should be talking like this and experiencing this. And no one paused and told me, well, no, Jess, you've got the power to learn the tools you need to so that you're not being drained. And archetypes was this huge missing puzzle piece for me. They just resonated so deeply in my soul because I started to realize that I have the power in any given moment to go, is this going to affect me? Am I going to be offended? Am I going to be upset? And that's like my child archetype. But then when it comes to the empath, am I going to allow myself to get burnt out, to get absolutely drained by this? Or am I going to learn the tools that I need to protect myself? And I also discovered something really, really powerful. Hi, Connie, gorgeous. Then this will be really powerful for you because sometimes we need a reminder that we're strong sovereign beings. And when you get that knocked out, you look at it and you go, well, who did it to me and why and what area of my life it was in? And an empath has the power. I have friends that can do this. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. They can go into a room and they know that there's something wrong. There's someone in the room who is causing conflict, or they're angry, or they're upset, or there's something's irritating them, and their energy of the room is oppressive. And an empath that is in their power, in their sovereign self, can use their empathetic abilities as a tool to shift the entire room, not just one person, not being drained by it. They actually use it for the superpower that it is. So for you could go to that one person and help shift them, or you can start joking. You could bring up the frequency of the room. But if you're in the mindset where you're being drained and you're allowing yourself to get drained and you're telling yourself that this is normal or you don't have the power, you don't know how to shift it, then what happens is you you're always going to get drained by that person. So you go into the room and that one person will drain you down, and then everyone else is oppressive, and you go home and you've got a headache, you feel sick, you go to bed, you wake up, you feel like a zombie. And all these things can completely happen to you if you allow them to. And the empath is supposed to be a supercharged battery that knows themselves really well. Now, I have to also pause here and say very clearly that the empath needs to know when they've had enough. They need to know to listen to their body. Maybe you're getting the intuition, I need to eat healthy, I need to go to bed early, I need to do this, I need to do that. And you have to really, really listen to your body. You have to nourish it. If it's become too much, you walk away. You don't stay there and try and fix things. Connie's just wrote, yep, I used to walk out and leave. Now I just change the vibration. Amazing. So that's you owning your power. And another analogy I used in the teachings that I just did in the Zoom is a friend of mine, she calls it her suit of armor. And it's a form of working with your alchemist archetype. So what she means is she has a toolkit of like about 10 different modalities or 10 different things that she does, which helps protect her energy, which helps keep her strong. And some of them is a response. So say she's under psychic attack, she will activate and do a specific energy technique which protects her from that. Then she might go in and she might be working with somebody who's really angry. So she has an energy tool which is for angry people. She also works with people who are passing away, and she has people absolutely grieving. Sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're just beside themselves, and sometimes she can see spirits. Like whatever happens to her, she has a response. She has a toolkit of energy techniques that she can call upon. And she listens to her empath and her healer, and she goes, okay, this has happened and presented in my life. What do I need to do to protect myself? So she is fully 100% in her sovereign power working with her empath. And her empath is actually amplifies her other archetypes. Um, so Saul, it's not laziness. I don't know about the depression. If you're having headaches, aches, and pains, that could be an energetical drain. You would have to look at um, am I surrounded by toxic people? Am I under psychic attack? Like you have to assess the different things because there's different energy tools that you can use. You could learn crystal gridding. You could learn. You could pray. You could call in ascended masters or angels. You could grid your house with crystals. You could learn the Ho'oponopono prayer. You could come up with a altar, like a ritual. Maybe you could get a specific candle and say a specific prayer and work on it that way. Prayer is part of ritual. Even if you're Catholic, when you're praying at the night time before bed, that is a ritual. So rituals aren't bad parts. Everything is a ritual. You get up and you go and have a coffee first thing in the morning. It becomes a part of your habits and who you are. So if you become daily, if you're dedicating yourself to doing something that protects you, you can light that candle, say a prayer for your energy field, you know. And don't forget, Saul, to check in with yourself. Should I be eating healthier? Should I be exercising? Should I be meditating? Should I start yoga? And listen to your intuition because that's you connecting with your sovereign self, not staying stuck down in your sabotaging self-esteem issues. It's you actually ascending up and doing things for yourself. And when you do that, you feed your mind, your body, and your soul. So it's incredibly powerful. Connie's just wrote selenite, which is my favorite. Have a look at this one. Is he beside it? Oh, it's over here. I have selenite all over the house. My tattoo means selenite. So I love that you said that, Connie. And when I put selenite on me, I just feel like all of my worries and my doubts and my fears are being drained from me. And it feels like it's got a very high frequency and a pure frequency for me. So there's different crystals that you can be working with like that. So Elizabeth Throat would love any tips on my empathetic spiritual work. So Elizabeth, do you get drained a lot? Or are you wanting to enhance your empathetic ability so that it works with other archetypes? Zane's got, I notice I get sick in the stomach. So that's actually a common one, Zane. Um, and I think it's especially if you feel like it's your power center. So it might be that on a certain level, you know that you're giving your power away, or you're hemorrhaging your power, or losing your power in some way. So it like literally manifests in that area. I the more I've worked with my archetype, Zane, and the more that I've become very connected with seeing the patterns, I will present an issue in the area that feels like it's under attack. So if I'm giving my power away, I will get queasy. I'll get, ugh, you know. And also, I've learned to, when I'm asking a question to my higher self, I'll be like, should I do this? And if I feel like my chest is opened, and a lightness, then it's a yes. But if it's like a lead in the stomach, it's almost like a pipe is sitting across my stomach or spine, and it's like this sinking, then that's no. So I suppose my body's become like a pendulum in its own way. It doesn't work all the time, but a good solid 70 to 80% of the time, I'm getting a yes, no within my body. So that's something that you can really work upon, learning for yourself. And that comes with as you're working with your sovereign self. I do live with a toxic person and try to ground myself. Um, that one's really, really hard, because you're in the energy field of a toxic person. So you're going to have to, um, if you can work on visualization of your actual aura being protected, that may help, because as you're in that house, and as you walk out the room and your auras are going to mingle, then it feels like a certain level of protection. So if you could implement like a, maybe when you're having, if you have a shower in the morning, when you're in the shower, as you're doing your stuff, you can also say that prayer and visualization. If you don't say that prayer, I mean, sorry, if you don't shower in the morning, you shower at nighttime, then what you could do is you could, any of your morning rituals, you just add prayer or a saying or an affirmation. I don't know if you were on when I was talking about the candle with soul, um, but that's something that is incredibly powerful. Um, Connie's got tourmaline crystal helps as well. So I actually have a piece of tourmaline which has smoky quartz inclusions and stuff on the outside of it, which are both perfect for protection and cleansing. So I actually have it in my bath. It's always sitting in my bath. And I will get in the bath and I'll put whatever essential oil I am guided to, and I've got that in there, and I see the bath as cleansing me. So I can go in there for two reasons. I can hop in the water and it's like, please wash away all the gunk. I need to clear my field. But sometimes I hop in there and I'm just like, all right, guys, what am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing today? What's going on? So if I feel like I need guidance, I'll go to water as well. So it's really important that we add ritual in, because it can really help when it comes to protecting yourself. Hi, Gillian from Scotland. And I've got Jason. It's so good to see you again, Jason. And he's got showering. Imagine your aura being filled with golden light. Yes, yes, yes. Another one that I do is I will do before I go to bed, I do this fairly often. Sometimes I can go a few days or a week without doing it, but it's my go-to for just doing a energy clearing on myself. So what I would do is I actually put my hand on each of my chakras and I say, please, well, I'll pray, Divine Mother, Father, God. Sometimes it's Spirit, sometimes I'm whatever I'm calling to. Mother, Father, God's a common one, and I'll say, please cleanse, clear, balance, and activate my root chakra. And then I go up and I do all of them. So I start from the root and I get to the crown, and then I ask for grace and divine light to come down into my body and clear my DNA and my cells of any frequencies, any viruses, anything that doesn't serve. And then I'll do it for my aura, cleanse my aura, and I'll do a thing called aura combing. So you just actually literally are going like this. And I know it looks silly, and if anyone was watching me, they'd probably think I'm crazy, but I can actually feel it as I'm doing it. It's hard to describe. Your fingertips just feel like they're a little bit tingly, and it's the only way I can really describe it. And then depending on what my intuition says, I can actually go into maybe I feel like I'm under attack, so I might go, please remove all hooks and attachments. Please null and void any soul contracts that don't serve me anymore. Please remove any negative entities or implants. If I've been in a toxic space, or with somebody who I have concerns about, I can say, please remove any demonic influences. So I'm very intuitive at this stage. So I do it at the last. I do all of the energy things, and then I do that at the last moment. And then I just lay there and I feel like $1,000,000. And it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what intuitively comes through. And it's really simple but powerful. So having some kind of a nightly routine or something that you can go to when you feel like you need it is incredibly powerful. Connie says, I visualize mirrors surrounding me but facing away from my body. I sometimes do that one, Connie, but then sometimes I feel like if someone's sending me projections, they might not know that they're doing so, and I have some concerns that it bounces back to them and makes it worse. If I feel like I'm under deliberate attack, I can put a mirror up because I feel like you can deal with the karma. So I think that that's something that you have to kind of assess and for yourself, and everybody just intuitively in the moment see how you feel about the mirror thing, because you don't want to do harm either. And Zane's got Elizabeth's got brilliant. Thank you, everyone. You're most welcome. Jason's got, I also return any energy you absorbed through the day and return any cords. Yes, powerful. Zane's got, I do try to imagine white light around myself, like I'm in a bubble of white light. That's really powerful, and especially for Elizabeth as well, because she's in a toxic workplace. No, sorry, she's got someone toxic living with her, and sometimes we can have flatmates or loved ones, and they've got their own stuff going on, and it can be exhausting. So you need to really constantly be checking in with yourself, because if your empath is like getting completely drained, you're knowing instinctively kind of feeling what they're going through. Sometimes you can want to go and rescue them, you want to help them out, and you need to stay vigilant with your energy field, because an empath who's in their power is a superpower. An empath who is in their shadow I've seen, and I don't know whether or not, um, I don't know whether or not you have known somebody like this, but sometimes a shadow empath can use it as a form of energy vampirism. So what I mean by that is they're so much in their victim, and they constantly talk about, I went to the supermarket and I got drained by this, and they kind of, it's not so much bragging, but they make it sound like something special, and you come along and you want to help them. So you give them some advice. Why don't you do this? Why don't you try crystals? Why don't you try this? And the way you can tell is if they're stuck in their energy vampire and in their victim is if they don't take the advice. So what they will do is they will continue it again, and and the next time you see them, oh, I went for a coffee and it was just so hard. Everyone in the cafe, I could feel their energy and it was just so draining, and you want to help them again. So you'll know if you keep repeating it but they do nothing, they're actually feeding off being the victim. It's just one of the aspects of the energy vampire can come through in that way. And we don't like to admit it, but it's there. I've done it. When I was younger, I used to um, be obsessed with writing. I wanted to be this fantasy writer, paranormal romances, um, urban urban fantasy, and I would tell everybody, I want to write. I've tried everything. I went to uni and did a Bachelor of Arts with writing and media, and still, I was obsessed. But I never, uh, it's an example of when you crave an archetype that's not part of your skill set. So I wanted this so badly, but I lacked the discipline to actually sit down and write. I have whole worlds and characters in my head. Um, I could verbally tell you about it, but I lacked the discipline to sit down. I don't have that archetype, I don't have that in me. And I would tell everybody and their dog about it. I want to write the tragic artist, right? And everyone would give me advice, and I would feed upon it. It was a type of energy vampirism. I didn't know what I was doing. It wasn't until I learned archetypes and I learned to really be accountable for my past and my archetypes that I went, holy shit. I had no intention of ever really doing anything, but I could probably name 100 people that I told who gave me all this advice and gave me all this attention because I was so upset. And the empath can come through like this, and you can feed from the drama of the situation, and people are giving you this advice, poor thing, try this, try that, and if you don't do anything about it, you will go into vampirism and feed on the drama of the situation. And if you continue to help somebody who keeps doing this, you're going to feed the vampire in them. So I always say, um, don't don't do it. I'll just try turning the volume up. I don't know if that will help, Jason. Um, so I always say give it 2 goes. And then on the third time, you have to assess, well, do I actually want to, um, do I want to continue to feed this vampire? Or what are my options now? So, depending on the person and my intuition, I will either be blunt and I will say to the person, I, I, I want to tell you something. Um, and I don't want you to get hurt, but I've noticed that I've given you this advice, and it's really fantastic advice on how to protect yourself energetically, and you're not doing it. So I don't know if you want to stay stuck this way or what's going on, but I won't be repeating myself. Like you have the power to make these changes. And I know that sounds blunt, but usually with my archetype of the mediator and the priestess, I'll say the perfect thing to the person and they don't get too offended. And you have to trust that you can do that too. But only you can assess in that moment, hey, am I going to actually stay here and just keep giving them the same advice over and over? Or do I say something? Maybe you'll think to yourself, I'm not that invested in this friendship, and you can actually exit stage left and have less to do with them. But if you don't assess yourself and your boundaries, you will prostitute your energy and time. You will go into shadow yourself, and you will step out of sovereign, and you will be feeding and enabling them. So it's really important that you do that assessment and go, well, am I going to say something, or am I just going to leave it? But I'm not going to feed them. And you can just change the subject. If it's a family member, then you need to um, assess how you want to deal with it, because family members can always be hard because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to do something that is going to cause them pain and all those different things, but you can't enable a family member either. So yours is a family member. That's really hard, Elizabeth, if you've got a toxic family member. Do they have a self-esteem issue, or are they just a plain bully or narcissist? It's hard without me knowing a little bit more about what they do. You can protect yourself to the best of your ability, but they could be triggering you in more than one way. So you're going to have to remain really, really vigilant. Connie's wrote, I just ended a 22-year friendship because of this. So many years of being drained that you broke the tie. Congratulations, Connie. That's amazing. 22 years. Do you feel lighter and brighter and so full of energy? Because if you've had that level of drain, I had a friendship which, when I finally left it, I realized that I had been put under the pressure of kind of being the leader of the friendship, and I didn't even know it was there. And my empath and my loyalty, because I was a very loyal friend, wanted to stay there and help and be of service and do all of those things. But what happens is it's insidious. It's slowly over time and time. And I had lower self-esteem back then, and I didn't understand my archetypes. And I just thought that's what it was meant to be, And when we had this big blow up of a fight, and she said something and did something which at that time was incredibly hurtful, I broke ties, and I felt light and so healed. And I realized that I'd had this incredible pressure on me to be the strong one, to lead the way, to always suggest activities, to push and go and do that. Let's do this, let's do that. And after that was all gone, I realized how much had been drained by that friendship. And she didn't know that she was doing it. I can't say that she was maliciously toxic, but I will say that she I gave my power away, and she drained me. Um, Connie's wrote, it was hard and I care, but I care about myself. And yes, so much lighter and happier, and have been able to set goals for myself. Exactly. And the amazing thing is, Connie, is you don't know it's happening. And then you actually assess just how much time on a daily basis and you spend thinking and doing for this other person. So um, I would not be surprised, Connie, if um, your life flows a lot faster. You'll manifest better. Opportunities will start to come to you. You'll have even, a much better connection with your sovereign and your intuition, and you'll be able to take action a lot quicker. So if your intuition says go and do this, yeah, your sovereign says let's go and do this, you'll activate that warrior easier, and you'll go and take action upon it because you haven't got that drain energetically. So that's really amazing. She hurt me so much, bullying me and belittling me in front of a lot of friends. I was so embarrassed. I just said enough, no more. Huge, absolutely huge. Because not only was um, she draining the life out of you, by that belittling, you've so you were victimized, but your child was being hurt constantly, and your child archetype was constantly being triggered because your child doesn't like to be belittled, it doesn't like to be betrayed, it doesn't like to be hurt, and it'll constantly then repeat the cycle. So you did two things when you left that relationship: is not only did you activate the warrior, you activated the sovereign really strongly. So that's incredibly powerful. And you've already noticed it happening. Yes, yes, yes. I'm really excited for you, Connie. That's fantastic. Um, Josette's got my sister is like this and attacks me verbally, spasmodically, but I will always be there for her. So, Josette, um, I I will always be there for my siblings, but I had to learn where to word things at times so that I stayed in my sovereign self, so that I didn't get activated and irritated. I didn't get belittled, and I didn't lose my sovereign power. So if they say something or other and go into attack mode, I either ignore it and just stay so strongly in I'm not going to be offended. Do you, hate is going to hate. Or I flat out say, do not speak to me like that. And it shocks the shit out of them. So if they have a mental health issue, or it might be drug induced or any of that kind of behavior, which um, is kind of like either a chemical imbalance or an emotional imbalance with their stuff, then you'll have to kind of take that on board when you're making a decision. Like, are they doing it to be vicious and malicious, or is it just whatever archetype they've got going on, or is it a mental health issue, or is it drug related, or are they in some kind of self-esteem issue triggered themselves and they're lashing out at a loved one? And if that is, you can have a certain level of detachment about it because you can see what they're doing archetypally. And you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to be offended to me. I can see what you're doing, and no. So you have to do that assessment internally and go, what am I going to do right now? My sister's attacking me. Do I just ignore it, or do I say something? Because you're allowed to say something back. The key is detachment, because if you get all upset and you get all defensed, can't speak English. If you get all defensive because they have been offensive, then you go into the story and all the emotions, and when you say something, it comes out as being defensive. But if you just completely detached and you're like, don't talk to me like that, because you just don't want to hear, you don't care about it, you can stop them in their tracks. But the key is detachment. Yes, I'm in control of my own feelings and don't allow her to hurt me. Perfect. But it hurts to see her like this. It's hard, especially if if you have that empath, if you have the healer, if you have the priestess archetypes, the ones which deeply connect and you can see the potential in people, there's nothing harder than seeing somebody derail their lives. It's like a form of torture in some ways, because you so know that you can help them. Where's my little building thing? Here we go. This is my fantastic picture I drew. So Caroline Mice talks about we all have a building inside of us, right? And it's an analogy for our levels of conscious. And so we all kind of start out in our basement, and then as we climb and we become more aware and we become more spiritual, we understand our sovereign, we understand our warrior, we understand karma, we understand our power, and to be ethical. We can learn to manifest. We learn not to allow people to hurt us. We move into being a healer and a teacher. We're slowly climbing that building of self-awareness. But the thing is, every time you go up a level, there's more rent to pay. When Caroline said that, Caroline Mice, I just had the most hugest epiphany. Because if you're here halfway up your building and your sister's in her basement, you can say to her, oh, look out here. There's a building, there's a beach, there's all these different things. If you learn your power, you can manifest. If you learn to watch what you say, you can have a much better life. Your words have spells. You can create your own reality. If you always are dwelling single-handedly focused on the negatives, that's all you're going to experience. And you know these things because you are halfway up your building. But you say them to her and she's down in her basement and she's looking out and all she can see is dumpsters and trash on the pavement, and she just plain is never going to understand. And the rent that you pay is that you have a bigger view than her. You can see things better than her. You understand your power. And she's stuck. If someone's stuck in their absolute addict, if someone's stuck being toxic, if someone's malicious, if someone's absolutely a victim and refuses to budge, they're that energy vampire. You can't get them to express, elevate up to you. If you're trying to tell them, there's a better way, they're like, you're fucking crazy. Life is shit. You see the glass half full and they see it half empty. So the rent that you pay is that you're lonelier. You feel this incredible grief, that you can be up here and you can see how, and you just want to say to your sister, you want to shake her and go, if you just did this, 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 and this, you could completely change your life. But they're not ready to listen to it. They think you're crazy. They just dismiss you. You're just talking shit. what they think. So it's incredibly hard. So what you're describing, that sadness that you see, um, is the rent that you pay for, and you can't, once you've gone up here and you've seen the view, you can't go back down. You can't. You can't unevolve. Sometimes I've wished I could, but not for long, usually only microseconds in the midst of some kind of trigger. The other thing that you can do to make life easier is to find a tribe, find people that are on your level, because we're all climbing our buildings. I've had to leave friends behind who I absolutely deeply love, and I'm still friends with them. But I can't have the esoterical conversations that I can have with some other people. You should hear some of the conversations I have with people on the same level as me. People put me in a loony bin, but I can see it. I've lived it. It's everyday life for me now. That's my reality. The weirdest, funniest stuff happens. Do you know, today I woke up really obsessed about, I wanted my brother to see this movie, Greenland, with Gerard Butler in it. And I'd watched it at my niece's house because she had Amazon Prime. And this morning I was trying to come up with so many different ways of how I could maybe get an HDMI cable, link my laptop to the TV, and I could somehow mirror the screen of it and do something or other, and download Amazon Prime. I don't even own it. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'll have to look up. There has to be an easier way. And I said those exact words. There has to be an easier way. And he comes to me about 5 hours later, and Foxtel has just made it available. He's got this movie called Greenland. I think we both really, really like it. And I just laughed and laughed and laughed. But that's the level of magnetization, of manifestation, and just insane amounts of synchronicities. So I don't know whether or not I was tuning in to the fact that this was coming, and I'm just in the frequency of it before it's even happening, or did I manifest that completely from scratch? I have no idea. I'm not even going to try and understand it, because it's like the chicken and the egg. What I do know is that when you're in that level of holographic alignment and the synchronicities over and over and over, that's everyday life. I have the funniest amounts of synchronicities. But if you try and describe that to somebody who is down here, they would lock me up completely. Then you get into the real esoteric conversations about some of the things that go on, and you just, they cannot see it. So that worry about your sister and the grief and stuff that you feel, Josetta, that's real. And that's the rent that you pay. But you have to observe it. You have to see it. You have to know it. But you don't get in the elevator and go down and live on her level, because it would just, you'll get sick, depressed, anxiety. Who knows what will happen to you? Because once you've gone up the building and you're seen out and you know what you're supposed to be doing, if you try and go back down the elevator, you get your ass kicked by the universe. I can attest to that. Your words are coming to me at the perfect time, and I thank you, lovely lady. You're most welcome. Oh, and Connie's got, we would be great friends. I'm sure we would, gorgeous. I'm so proud of you for ditching that 22-year friendship. Can't help someone that don't want help. You can just be there for when they do. Yes, Josette's got, when I say positives to her, she thinks I'm putting her down and boosting my ego. See, that's that you're on that level. She cannot see that. She sees it as an attack, and you see it as trying to enable her and build her up. See how she just doesn't see. She's not on the same level. Tina's got, I feel like you're speaking right at me. We all go through this, most definitely. You can stop her by saying, I worry about you and I love you. That's beautiful, because love is one of the most potent ones. Jess Lopez has got, you can take a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Exactly. One of the biggest things for all people who have the healer archetype is you have to go through the lesson of, I so desperately want to help this person because I know in my bones I can help them. But you cannot heal somebody who doesn't want to be healed. It is the most bitter medicine I've ever had to discover. I used to give sessions, archetypal counseling sessions, away for free before I started my business, and they wouldn't shift, they wouldn't change. It wasn't until I actually charged money and they see money as value that they started to actually value what I was saying, and then they would do the work, you know. With my coaching that I do with the big archetypal course, the people who are really invested in doing the work is the people who are so ready, and they want to face those sabotaging patterns so they don't get just caught in a cycle over and over and over. They want to know their patterns. They want to take their power back, you know. So it's really potent that we all understand a person has to be ready in their time, and that we have very little to do with the situation. You can always pray. Now, prayer has become a dirty word, I think, because of everything that Christians have done to the majority of other people on the planet over time. And there's a stigma around it. But prayer is ritual. Every pagan, every religion, every mudra, mantra, everything, Tibetan, Buddha, Hindu, Wiccan, Muslim, Islam, Christian, all of it has prayer in it, and they all have rituals, every single one of them. So if you're wanting to help somebody that's stuck down here, just pray for them as basic as you can. Fill them with grace. Hey guys, I'm so worried about my family member, my sister, my brother, my mother, my friend, whichever one is there. I'm so worried about them. Please take this worry from me so that I shift into certainty and belief that they can change. And please fill them with grace, help them. That's it. That's all you need to do. You feel better, you pray for yourself, and you pray for them. You don't try and pray for an outcome, because then you're trying to put your perspective and your desires onto their future. So even if it's you want them to give up beer, please, beer is destroying their lives, please help them to give up the beer. You're putting your human perspective of their journey, and you can be limiting it. Just if you don't like the word grace, fill them with light, divine light. Mother Earth, pray to Mother Earth for her energies to raise up and help person. It's better than doing nothing. Get a crystal, dedicate the crystal to that person. Every time they do something, rub it and say a prayer for them. The most simple of rituals is the most potent and powerful, right? I love the concept of no outcome. Thank you. Um, Jillian's got makes sense what you're saying. Perfect and perfect. Hi, Emily. So I was actually, when I was doing the teaching just before this on the empath in the Zoom connection, I told this story, and I was concerned for one of my siblings who was drinking a lot, and I was saying prayers, and I was trying to get them to not drink, right? I'm going, something's not right. Something's not right. I need to change how I'm doing this. So I was so badly triggered, Amanda, that I hated it. I hated beer and I hated alcohol. So I was so badly triggered. I actually would go into meditative kind of prayer, and I would just pray over and over for all my projections, all my fears and doubts, all my hatred of alcohol, my concerns, and everything be drained from me. And I would just get to this place of peace. And once that happened, I then simply prayed for my sibling to be filled with grace. And I trusted that a better plan was for them. I just went into faith. So I filled them with grace. I only did this for a very short period, within a couple of days or a week. And they had a job shift where he works for a company, and they shifted him up to work in this different spot for 6 months. And because he had to travel so much of a morning and a night, but particularly in the morning, he couldn't drink heavy of a night time. He couldn't be driving over the limit. So he was working 6 days a week and earning fantastic money, and he couldn't drink. So I actually looked up at God and I said, "You are so much smarter than me," because I would have never occurred to pray for an outcome where he's busier and he's getting paid a fortune and he can't drink. I would never have thought to do something so cool. So when we detach and we don't have that outcome and we just fill them with light, we fill them with grace, so potent. Pray to your angels. Yes, Connie. Angels, crystal divas, the fairies, ascended masters, wisdom keepers, ancestors, archangels, family of light. You can be using any of this. Mother, Father, God, specific deities, the land, Mother Earth, the animal kingdom. Do you have a totem animal? You can be calling in any of these, whatever feels right, and really just asking for that help as well. I've realized that we have gone nearly an hour, so I better get off here. It has been an utterly fantastic talk tonight about the empath and really stepping into our power. I have put in the link, the description, my Facebook group and my Facebook page. I am always doing different teachings about archetypes each week. And I just did a Facebook Live with the empath, and I went through a slideshow, and it's like the full one. So I'm going to put that recording into the group. So if any of you are interested in knowing more in depth about the empath, the recording will be in there. So you're most welcome, Amanda. I feel like those who needed to hear this message has just magically found their way to listening to me tonight, because it seems to have been really everyone that's come on's really resonated, and it's been perfect. Yes, Elizabeth, any of you can always friend request me as well. I'm just under Jess Beard. So Sending you all lots of love and thank you so much. Bye for now.